Good afternoon, everyone. It's 3:30, so we're going to go ahead and get started. We very much appreciate y'all joining us for our second volunteer leadership webinar hosted by the Southwest region. I'm very happy today that we'll be focusing on how to incorporate volunteer-led project clubs into our Forge program. And this truly was a team effort. And you'll see that today with the variety of presenters that we have joining us. I'm Lynette Abear. I do regional forage work for the Southwest region, and I'm happy today to be working with Victoria Dubois. Victoria is in Lafayette Parish. Megan Franks, who is our volunteer specialist with the Louisiana Forage Program. Dr. Janet Fox worked with this community, as well as Reed Email, who is in Terrebonne Parish, and Carrie Lane, who is in Calcasieu Parish. So thanks to all of them for working to present this webinar today. Just before we get started, just wanted to review Teams with all of you if you're not familiar with the Teams system and some capabilities that you have. If you look at your toolbar, you'll see a few things that will help you manage the meeting with us. The first two buttons you'll see after the time elapsed is the camera and the microphone, and these are to be used when you want to either open your mic or show your camera. Then you'll see the button looks like a screen with an arrow. That's if you'd like to share your screen. Right now I'm sharing my screen. All of you should see the presentation. You see 3 dots that gives you more actions to use throughout the meeting. The raise hand button will actually show someone raising their hand, and we know to call on you. I'll be monitoring the chat and the raise hand function throughout the meeting. If you would like to see who joined us on the meeting, there's the icon with the 2 little people. And if you see that, you'll see a list of who's attending. You also see a chat box, and that's if you want to open up your chat box and type in any questions that you may have. And very last, when you want to leave the meeting, you'll see the phone to hang up in the red box. Any questions? Okay, not hearing any questions. I'm going to turn it over to Miss Megan. Megan, your mic is muted.
Great, thank you.
It's a Monday. It's a Monday.
It is a Monday, so and I apologize for any background noise. My neighbor is pressure washing, and he's a wonderful neighbor. So I'm going to lead us in a little icebreaker this afternoon, but before we do that, I wanted to test our ability to navigate Teams a little bit. So what I want you to do is open the chat. So that is, if you remember the bar that Lynette just showed you, it should be that icon. It's right beside your hand icon. There's a little conversation button. If you click on that, and then what I want you to do is I want you to click on the little face, the emoji, and I want you to select your favorite emoji and put it in the chat. Great. So some of us, there we go. All right, lots of happy faces. That's good. Cute. Okay. Is there anybody that's having trouble accessing that? So we're opening our conversation. It's a little text, the little box next to the hand, the conversation box, and we were selecting our favorite emoji. We're dropping it in the chat. Okay, so Dana, you don't see them. Okay, it depends. It might be the system that you logged in on, but if you want to check, you should have a little happy face icon next to your format message. If not, you have found the chat, so that was successful. Great. Okay, using the browser. All right, that might be why you can't access it. So, okay, great. Well, thank y'all for doing that. So the next thing we're gonna do is, I do have a Slido open, and so slido.com is a really easy way to get your participants, virtual participants, to engage in a virtual meeting. So if you need information from them or you want them to ask them a particular question, you can use this tool. It is free up to, I believe, 4 questions. So on the screen, you'll see I have the link to join, or you can use that QR code. And I've opened the first question. So if you go to slido.com and use that code on your screen, it's going to ask you a series of questions. So the first question is really simple. It is, which parish are you joining us from? Great, so we have 5 people so far that have contributed. So we've got Lafayette represented, St. Martin. So anytime we have more than one individual, you'll see as the parish names begin to get larger. Acadia is leading the way now. Lafayette. Got 12, 14 folks on there now. Good representation. Who's our winner so far, Lynette? Looks like Lafayette.
It's
24 on this call.
Lafayette and Acadia, huh?
Yeah, it's a close call. All right, 16 contributing, but 24 on the call. So see if we can get a couple more folks to use that link. Tell us which parish you're joining us from. Assumption maybe just. Great, so a lot of you being able to use that tool, it's fairly easy to use. So the next thing, oh, where we go. Somebody else still contributing. So I'm gonna try one more. We're gonna open a new question. Here we go. So this next question that you can contribute to with that same link, it is, how are you feeling today? So let me know how you're feeling. Oh, some happy, some anxious. Some are excited, some are tired. I'll say during COVID, I feel anxious, tired, excited at the same time sometimes. Conflicting feelings. So majority of folks are happy. 18 contributing now. Good. So it's really, really simple way to just ask questions using this tool. 18 is about what we had on the last one. So let's move on to the next question. It's very easy, but just a silly one. So hands on your heart. Are you wearing sweatpants right now? So are you business on the top, comfort on the bottom? Did you just take them off for this call? 100% yes always, or never? Ooh. Never. 100% yes. Business on top, comfort on the bottom. That is one thing that the virtual life has allowed us to do. Never. Ooh, we got a lot of nevers, 40%. Well, I appreciate everybody's professionalism. We got 44% nevers. So good deal. So there's a very simple tool that you can use for engagement in a virtual platform. So another tool that I wanted us to use, but I guess unfortunately I don't have access to the roster, Lynette. I just realized that. But so there's another tool that I'm going to share in the chat. So anytime you want to do virtual engagement, there's a tool called Wheel of Names. It's really simple to kind of navigate. For example, if I was to put, sorry, spelling two names in the chat and then, or into that wheel, and then you click spin. And say it was, for example, if I selected my name or Lynette's name or whoever is on your call, you could easily ask them a question and get them to share. For example, if I wanted to ask Lynette what flavor, if you could describe yourself in a flavor of ice cream, what flavor ice cream would you be? Just for example. So I'm going to share that in the chat as well.
You really want me to answer that?
No, you don't have to. It's okay. We're just having fun. But I'm going to share this link with the, there we go, into the chat. And y'all, that is one that you can use as well. So, all right. I'm going to go back if you want to take your screen back, Lynette.
Okay, now Mr. Reed's going to take over.
All right. Miss Lynette, you gonna put up the PowerPoint?
Can you see it now?
Yes, ma'am. All right. I'm here to talk to you about the basics of project. 4-H projects are built around 3 important principles. One of them being the subject matter, acknowledgement and life and skills, personal development, social interaction among people of different backgrounds, experiences, and ages. You can go ahead and, all right, benefits of project clubs. Project clubs are real life experiences that help 4-Hers learn to make real life decisions. Members develop good work habits and learn to work well with others, sharing ideas and helping each other. Project clubs also help in developing good leadership, life, and character skills. A 4-H project is the topic or interest area members explore through hands-on activities, sequential learning experiences, goal setting, and evaluation. Necessary life skills as well as project skills are emphasized in the project books. Project books are available through your extension offices. All project clubs are to be led by caring adults. Okay, project club needs to focus on one project area at a time. For example, STEM, sewing club, pet care club, livestock. We need to focus on that one project area. There may be additional cost above the school club to cover the materials needed that you may use throughout that year. The project club leader sets the meeting dates and locations. They also set how long the meetings will be. They're usually outside of a school club meeting. The club is normally limited to a certain number of usually 8 to 12 members is appropriate. Recommended on average. Project leaders can either be led by teen or adult. Recommended ratio is 1 adult to 10 youth, but best practices for youth protection is 2 deep leadership. All meetings should focus on learning by doing and the experiential learning process, which is by hands-on. I know which is hard at this time with COVID. Also research-based curriculum. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about on-site meetings. Make sure you're reviewing the COVID-19 meeting guidelines. I know they are changing as we speak. New guidelines are coming in since we're moving into phase 3. But some of the kind of guidelines probably will stay the same. Whereas when you have these project clubs at your venue or at somewhere else, make sure you having sign-in sheets or documents for communicating procedures. They have some. I know Miss Lynette had sent some out. Um, so there are some meeting rules and stuff that you can have at your meetings. If you see someone sick or you know they're sick, ask them to stay home. Okay, we don't want to get nobody else. Um, no anywhere virus transmitted to anybody else. So if they are sick, make sure they're staying home. Make sure they're staying 6 feet apart, social distancing. I know it's kind of hard. Teenagers come into a room or young kids come into a room. Make sure they stay in that social distancing. Also, you might want to relax on your attendance policies. Again, if they don't want to come to the meeting because of certain reasons, don't mandate that they have to. Okay, so we just kind of want to relax on that attendance policies. Hey, look, if they can't get that information through that club meeting, maybe they can get it in a virtual or some kind of other way, get that material that they need. Make sure they're all wearing masks. I know that's going to be hard right now. I've heard some stories with some younger kids trading masks, and well, especially our younger groups, they want to trade and say, "Hey, I want this one because this one got this one," and they trading. Well, that's not the point of keeping the mask on. Okay, make sure they're wearing their own mask. They come with their mask, and they're wearing their mask continuously throughout the meeting. Okay, Miss Lynette. Create and prepare signs for documents. We have that already on the side. 4-H meeting rules and all that good stuff. Um, make sure you prepare for your meetings whenever your meetings are. Make sure you have the right materials. Wipe down all common surfaces. Whether you're at your office or you go to a different venue, make sure you're wiping those common surfaces down. Wash hands often. Kids need to know when they walk into your room or a different venue, they need to know where they can go and wash their hands. So make sure they're washing their hands and cleaning themselves often. Have hand sanitizer available. Some of them gonna want to use it, some of them might not. They might want to just wash their hands, but make sure they have it available if they need it. Also, make sure your space is large enough to accommodate the number of attendees. If you whether you have an 8 to 12 members or you have a junior leader meeting that's having 30 to 40 members, whatever they allow us now to have, make sure your space is large enough. Make sure you can have that social distancing. Make sure you can go ahead and have enough room to spread those 4-Hers out so they're not mingling and congregating in one area. Okay, have a check-in process. I know this is going to be hard for most of us, and some of us are already doing this wonderfully. Make sure you're checking in people as they come in and as they leave. Make sure you're getting their phone numbers. Okay, even not only the 4-Hers that are coming into your office, but the parents that are coming in. The parents have another sibling with them. Make sure you're checking in them when they come in and when they leave. Have directions ready for members. This is kind of hard because when members are going to come into the room, they're going to, if they're young, they might want to congregate with each other and shake hands and say hello because they haven't seen each other in such a long period of time. So have those directions posted of where they need to go, where they need to be seated. Go ahead and space your table and chairs to ensure for social distancing. Space them out. Again, that goes back to the size of your room. Excuse me. Make sure you can have that table and chair spread out. Again, make sure all your areas are properly sanitized. Again, if you at your office, you sanitize them yourself. But if you go into a different venue, make sure you ask the person in charge or whoever, or maybe you just go ahead and sanitize it again, just to make sure. Okay, also limit the use of your equipment. I know, and that goes back to no-touch educational resources, which is next. Make sure when you pass it around, make sure one person passes it around. Make sure when you're using equipment or pens, when they come in to sign in, make sure they bringing their own pens and pencils to the meeting, because those things they kind of want to pass it around. Okay, if you're handing out papers or you showing them stuff about a project area, okay, make sure you're not passing around to where everybody's touching it and then around the meeting. Make sure one person's passing it around. Okay. Um, don't provide food or snacks. Okay, Miss Lynette corrected me on this. Um, and you can talk to Dr. Guidry about bringing food, about providing food or snacks at a meeting, but it has to go through him. Funds and games at a distance. I kind of took this from Mr. Hilton. Again, you want to make these project clubs fun. You want to do some icebreakers with them, because you know they out there and they've been cooped up in their place, and I know they just get into school, but they also want to come to 4-H because they want to have fun. Think of some ways that you could do. I looked up some ways, and what I want to do in some of my project clubs, they talked about greeting, making some new greeting signs. Like not just when you walk in a room, you shake hands with somebody. Maybe you can come up with something that's silly that means, saying hello or something to that effect. Okay, so we want to make these projects as fun as possible. Okay, and I'll hand it over to Megan.
All right, so I'm going to take control from here, and I'm going to talk about virtual meeting risk management. This past summer, we released a framework for program delivery in times of crisis like the pandemic, and exploring the different ways that we can provide programming to our youth. So traditionally, it's always in person. This summer, we had a number of programs that went virtual, from 4-H University to virtual camp, and now moving into our fall programming, exploring and whatever options are available to you. And that's really dependent on a variety of factors in your parish. Exploring that in person, and obviously safety is very important there. So that should be the utmost concern. If that's not an option, that the virtual opportunities and what that looks like, delivering that program in a virtual setting, and the risk management, that policies, procedures that need to be abided by. And then in a hybrid environment, which could be the combination of that in person when it's safe to do so, and in those small groups, or in a virtual environment as well. Not sure. There we go. So virtual meeting risk management. So I'll go over some of the basics. We did have a virtual volunteer risk management webinar just a few weeks ago now. So when it comes to virtual meetings, those meetings should be done within the participants should be in their home. So meeting in one place for a virtual meeting kind of defeats the purpose of having that virtual meeting, because we're doing it meeting virtually because of to avoid situation around the pandemic and getting sick. So we should make sure that those youth are meeting in their home when they're doing those virtual meetings. Those meetings need to be organized by adult volunteers or the 4-H agent. So you don't want your youth actually scheduling those meetings and sending those links out. And any links that you create to virtual meetings, they should not be posted publicly, so that you avoid anybody cutting on the call that shouldn't be on that virtual session. You should always have 2 approved and screened adult volunteers present at all times. And you want to be the first one on the meeting and the last one to exit. The great thing about the technology like Teams and Zoom, if you've been using Zoom, is you do have that option to end meeting for all. I've just provided a screenshot of what that looks like on Teams. And on Zoom, you have the option of enabling that virtual lobby as well, also in Teams. And so see that button that I have, enable join before the host. So you can disable that, or you can enable the virtual lobby where you can hold participants before you actually allow them to enter the room. And so, and when you're exiting, just make sure that you're selecting that end meeting for all function that's available in Teams and also for Zoom, in Zoom. When you're on your virtual meetings, just be mindful of the chat. It can have there's opportunities or situations that might arise where the chat gets a little bit out of hand. And so maybe a good best practice would be to allow your youth to develop a list of virtual chat rules, and you can post those in each of your meetings at the beginning of the session, kind of like how Lynette uses that image at the beginning of virtual trainings to remind you how to use the technology tools of Teams. You could be posting your chat etiquette rules in the chat at the beginning of each session. And it's very important to have a moderator, so a chat moderator like a parent or another volunteer that can field questions and keep the audience engaged throughout the meeting. All right. So the next thing I'm going to discuss is the creating that inclusive environment in a virtual setting. And so, as you know, access, diversity, equity, they're essential elements of 4-H. And so we need to be mindful of those diverse values and perspectives that our youth have. And when delivering content, just be mindful of different beliefs, religions, and perspectives, and then the backgrounds of your members. And it's really important in a virtual setting to create that mutual respect and to create an inclusive environment. And there's some ways you can still develop that, either in person or virtually as well. So first of all, a good tip or way that you can prepare for meetings is imagining yourself in the shoes of all the youth, of all your members. So whenever they ask a question or they may come with you with a certain story or scenario, it's really helpful to put yourself in their shoes and withhold any judgment. Spend a lot of time learning and listening to what your members have to say. A great way of doing this is to have those open sharing sessions at the end of different meetings if you have opportunity to. So that's 10 to 15 minutes of sharing. There's a number of activities that can help you do that. You should value that storytelling in the youth voice and then encourage them to share their different diverse perspectives. There's a lot that can be learned when it comes to allowing those diverse perspectives from your youth to be shared. And a really helpful activity would be to develop ground rules around active listening. So when you're having a sharing session, making sure that you have equal opportunity for your members. Not each member dominates those conversations. And so if you have to, be a little bit more strategic in allowing each youth to share over the course of several meetings, that will allow a little bit more opportunity for their voice to be heard and a lot more chance for those diverse perspectives to be shared. There's a number of activities that are resources that can allow you to do this, and I've shared some that are linked on this PowerPoint that you can have access to, and a lot of tools and activities that can help you make this inclusive environment. So a couple of tips to building an inclusive environment. It's really helpful to learn to properly say the names of your members. It allows them they learn that you actually care. And I know a lot of times when we have youth with really difficult names, and it can be hard to learn them, but over time, really do make an effort to learn how to pronounce them the right way. Don't adopt nicknames for individuals just because you can't say their name. Really strive to make an effort to learn how to properly pronounce them. And if you're in a virtual environment, don't require cameras or mics if a youth does not feel comfortable sharing. So when you're on a virtual call, a youth might not be comfortable with you seeing their environment in their home, or they might not be comfortable opening their mic due to any potential background noise that exists. So if you're doing virtual meetings and you have virtual activities, make sure that you allow youth to share using that chat, and then just get in the habit of having your moderator read back that material on the call that your youth has shared. Also, shouldn't make assumptions about a member based on their appearance or the way they talk or the way, or the way they dress, and getting the habit. And this one's kind of difficult to do, and it does take some time. Using those gender neutral pronouns. So instead of assuming he or she, getting in the habit of using they, their, and them, or instead of just assuming the gender of that particular member. And saying also, I mentioned before, having that last 10 minutes of a meeting open for sharing, allowing your youth to build connections with you and with others. And like I said before, giving equal opportunity to contribute and share, not allowing one youth to kind of dominate that conversation. Right. So there's a couple of additional tools that you can use. And if you've used the Think, Pair, Share activity before, there's a link to that from, I believe it's from the University of Harvard. You can also use the See, Think, Wonder. So if you're in a virtual or in-person session, you can group your youth to 2 or 3 students, and you can use the prompts like I see, so something that they've observing, or I think, about how they think that might be going, and I wonder, which allows youth to engage with their curiosity. And so if you're wondering how you would do this in a virtual setting, you do have the option on Teams to create links to breakout rooms. And if you are the person that creates those rooms, you can actually see what's going on in each of those rooms while the youth are having their breakout sessions. The great thing about a tool like Zoom is that you do have that much easier way of creating those breakout rooms. If you've never done it before, I do encourage you that if you ever try to do it, that you would practice before you actually do the virtual teams. And in saying that, the same kind of rules apply. So you have 2D leadership, which does create a little bit of difficulty when creating those breakout teams or breakout rooms for engagement in a virtual platform. But it can really help create a very engaged environment. And so if you have the opportunity to do it with the tools that you have, I do encourage you to do it. In saying that, in an in-person session, it's obviously a lot easier to accomplish. So, so tips for building an inclusive environment. There's also a number of tools that that you can share and click to. So there's that Think, Pair, Share activity, a link to that. The risk management webinar that was held just a few weeks ago, the volunteer development newsletter, and then the volunteers leading in virtual 4-H. And Lynette, if you want, I can show any of those items, or would you rather me show those at the end of this?
Why don't you go ahead and show?
Perfect.
I think some of them are also in the other slides, but I think it's okay if you review them now.
Okay, great. So I'm going to, whoops. Sorry, I did the wrong button there. Lynette, would you take control back for me? And then I'll share. Thank you. It disabled my toolbar there, so. Interesting. Okay, here we go. Cool. Thanks, that helps me tremendously, thank you. All right, so here is a copy of the volunteer development newsletter. So this does come out nearly monthly, and so there should be a link that your agent should have. It'll have all the upcoming events for volunteers, so the upcoming volunteer conference, the manual that we created for Louisiana volunteers leading in virtual 4-H, the new enrollment process, and links to all the current training modules that are available online, registration for national conference. We also produce a 9/11 Day Facilitator Guide and a number of materials that you could use to help your youth get engaged in 9/11 Day. Information about logging impact and volunteer screening and training and screening resources, and share that link in the chat. In addition to that, there is also the guidebook that was created. It can be downloaded as a PDF, or for those of you that prefer to have a little bit larger screen, it's also done in electronic form, but it'll allow you to kind of click through ways to use Teams, so where to download Teams, where to find files, joining meetings, using those toolbar functions, presenting, a lot of what we talked about with risk management today, how to set up and host a virtual meeting, the different components of the virtual meeting and how those would be done in that virtual setting. And then additional resources that are really helpful. So if you're using Zoom, because that's available to you, or if you're using Google Classrooms, there's a number of resources that can help you as well. And I'll share that link in the chat, but it's also on the slides.
Megan, just to clarify the use of Zoom or Google Classroom as compared to Teams, if you are a project leader working directly with your parish, not within a school setting, you should be working with your 4-H agent to set up those virtual meetings in the Teams platform. If you are representing your school system and they have a different platform, then it's permissible to use that platform. But if you're hosting a parish level project club representing the Ag Center, we ask that you please work with your agents to use the Teams platform.
Yes, thank you, Lynette, for clarifying that.
Okay, now I think we turn it over to Ms. Carey. Thanks, Megan. Any questions for Megan or Reed? Thank you all both very much. Ms. Carey, we're going to turn it over to you.
All right. Miss Lynette, whenever you're ready to click through. Awesome. All right. So before I start, I really want to thank everyone for coming today, and Miss Lynette and the whole team for letting me continue and working for this webinar. Given all the crazy circumstances in Calcasieu, it was really nice to have something really to focus on. So greatly appreciated. The very first thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about is building a volunteer team for a project club. There are, depending on the project that you choose, specific age requirements, especially for youth volunteers that you may have to follow, especially for shooting sports. I know our coaches in shooting sports have to be at least 21 years of age, and we don't technically really have youth coaches to go by. So make sure that you are just caught up on exactly where those teen and adult volunteers can fit in. But I really want to focus on teen volunteers today because I feel like, especially in a parish as large as Calcasieu, where volunteers play such a vital role, teen volunteers tend to be almost an untapped resource, I think is going to be the best word for me to say for that. You hear teen volunteers and you instantly relate it to what do we normally see campers see at camp? We see counselors. So there are so many other things beyond the world of 4-H camp that are available to our youth volunteers. And a lot of that comes down from our state, comes down from our state boards. For example, fashion board members in Calcasieu come back from state fashion camp and teach those exact same lessons at our elementary workshop day. We also have sewing camp in the spring where we have 4-Hers come in for a day or two. They learn all kind of fun and exciting things in the world of fashion and sewing. So our fashion board members have done a fantastic job of becoming those youth mentors and those youth volunteers within our parish. Nutrition board members are doing the same thing. Our Calcasieu Nutrition Board member has developed a few videos during our times of COVID that have been posted up on social media, and she's done a fantastic job. Teaching, like I said, at workshop days, junior leader officers hosting officer trainings and speaking workshops. Our horse club in the past has also jumped into the world of mentors. We've had older horse club members that were paired up with younger members who either didn't have horses or were very new in the world of horses, and they became very close throughout the year and were able to really help each other. So really look into the world of teen volunteers. There's so many different areas for your youth to be involved in beyond camp counselors when it comes to volunteering. When you think about working with youth, of course you think about youth adult partnerships. Developing a close working relationship between the youth and the adult volunteers is going to be very important. Making sure that the youth feel comfortable and that they have a good relationship with a caring adult is going to be the first open doorway for them to step into the world of volunteering. Make sure they feel needed, that they feel heard. Advisory committees, make sure that you guys, Miss Lynette, youth volunteers on advisory committees, how many is recommended? Is it 2?
A third of your membership.
Okay, so a third of your advisory membership, make sure that they are youth members, because they can give you insight and a point of view from something that maybe you have not thought of before. So just make sure that you really include those youth when it comes to these project clubs, because they're members, they're there, they're interested, they have untapped resources for you to be able to utilize. When it comes to building that volunteer team, recruitment is very important. It's important to know your audience, of course. Are they alumni? Are your volunteers parents of children in the program? Are they volunteering for college courses? Are they just community volunteers that maybe they found you guys on a volunteer website? Are they a periodic volunteer? Are they there maybe just to help grade written tests at a contest day? Or are they long-term with your livestock project? So really understanding your audience and knowing why your volunteers are volunteering to begin with is always a great place to start. There is a volunteer interest survey. Megan has provided that for us, and this there is a link in the QR code there in the slide for you. Will bring you right to that interest survey. This just kind of gives you an idea as to kind of where they think they might fit in as a volunteer. Do they want to be more active as a club leader or a project club leader? Are they interested in junior leaders? Are they more comfortable maybe working with elementary 4-Hers? What is their past experience with 4-H? So just kind of an opportunity for you to really get to know your volunteers and kind of guide them in the direction if they're not quite sure exactly where it is that they want to go. Also, when it comes to recruiting volunteers, connectivity to the program is going to be very, very important. A simple onboarding process is going to be key in keeping your volunteers interested and pushing them on to beyond just registering as a volunteer. The websites, I know keeping up with the website is not always the easiest, but keeping up with your website and allowing it to serve as kind of a one-stop shop for all things volunteers is going to be, it's going to make your job as a 4-H agent much easier. So just make sure that you're providing easy access to volunteer enrollment information, but don't forget to provide a place for volunteers to seek out more information if they're not ready to fully commit to a volunteer role. Maybe provide a little link where they can sign up for a newsletter service to get more information. Your contact information is always good as well. Make sure you have the QR code for a lot of this. You can include that in your newsletters, volunteer information packets, and all kind of hard copy distribution of things for your project clubs. All right, Miss Lynette. Okay, there is the Menti poll. We're going to go ahead and do this one real quick. the QR code. All right, so the question there being, what volunteer roles are shared between teens and adults? So we've talked about roles that teens can have, and we've talked about some roles that adults maybe can have, but what are some of those that are shared? And if Minty isn't going to cooperate, you're more than welcome to use the chat. Is it going to work?
So just a reminder, you could either type in the code into your browser, or if you want to pull up your camera for the QR code, it'll take you directly to that site on your phone. Miss Carrie, is it working for you on that end?
It's not.
I was able to pull up Minty. I mean, I can't see the results. I'm in as a participant.
Right. I'm trying to get my results up now. It is not wanting to pull up the results. Shared roles. Yay. Thank you, Victoria. Mentors, advisory board members. Perfect. Any other ideas? If you guys maybe just want to throw them up in the chat, that might be a little easier. Does not have to be a specific role. It can be a duty for a teen volunteer. Yes. Camp. Very good. Workshop. Camps. Awesome. So some really, really great roles there. Serve as judges. Very good. I like that. Recruiters for fellow volunteers and fellow 4-H members. Service projects. Awesome. Yes. So teens can play a huge role in the world of volunteering. Moderating chats, in-person and virtual discussion. Very good. Project leaders. You don't normally, when you think project leaders, you think adults. Our team volunteers are very capable and interested in leading their own project clubs under the supervision of an adult leader. So that's always an option as well. Workshops, like we said, judging at contest days, as long as, of course, they're not participating in that particular contest. As fundraising coordinators, yes, teens are very techie. They get all of the fun Snapchat, Instagram, all the fun social media things. So definitely use teen volunteers to work with you in the world of technology. Awesome. Good job. All right, Miss Lynette. All right. So with our project clubs, orientation and training is always important. There are some new state publications out, but they are in communications right now, being reviewed for ADA requirements, but they will be available soon. There is a new club leader guide that includes basic 4-H information, such as the emblem use, introduction into 4-H, basic instruction on beginning a project club, and volunteer role descriptions and volunteer policies. So that will be out soon to us. There is also a fun little series that that was started within the state office called Letters to Leaders. And I looked over these letters. They're fantastic. So they should be out as well very, very soon. They cover a few different topics about how to be a successful leader in the world of 4-H. So keep an eye out for those. As soon as they're available for us, we'll be getting those to you. But when it comes to training your volunteers for their particular interest or their for their role, make sure that you are training them in specific topics led by a specialist in their topic area. Whether that's a community resource or a state 4-H specialist. We have things like shooting sports instructor training, regional livestock trainings that happened in the Southwest region last year, were a huge hit. They were very popular and they went over very well. Chaperone trainings. Feel free. Megan, I'm going to throw you out there. If you have questions, call Megan. She does a wonderful, wonderful job. She's absolutely fantastic. It has been a huge help. I'm sure she has all of the answers for you. So when it comes to project-specific training, today we're talking about pet care project clubs. What prior knowledge do you want your volunteer leader to possess? Are they a parent? Are they a community professional? Or maybe they a veterinarian or a behavior specialist? So kind of dig into that background a little bit, and it'll help push your project club in a specific way. When it comes from the state office, State Fashion Efforts to Train the Trainer, they've done a fantastic job with the fashion board. Our adult volunteers have come back and taught again, like I said earlier, at elementary workshop days, along with our youth volunteers. Teen health advocacy training has happened in the past as well, and that's been fantastic. Again, risk management, we just talked about it in the few slides before, as well as in the previous webinar. If you're in the Southwest region and you were affected by the hurricane, make sure that there aren't any other guidelines affecting your ability to meet in a particular place if you are doing in-person meetings. And remember, too, deep leadership, always, always important to keep risk management at the forefront of your mind. All right. So when building a volunteer team for your project club, make sure that you have clear expectations. From the agent side of things, there are revised agent expectations during COVID. That was an email from Dr. Guidry on 8/21. And it kind of outlines all the different revisions that were made to these particular expectations. A minimum of 2 established project clubs and 4 educational workshops annually is this minimum state expectation. So, and those can be any kind of project club, junior leader, shooting sports, livestock, food and fitness, set, and workshops to go along with those. Volunteer descriptions are also important. These are working documents. Make sure that they are not always set in stone. Make sure that you can customize them to your parish and to your given situation, and include your volunteers in the writing process. Be sure to include them in this process in order to begin with a clear guide, so that you understand who has preconceived notions when it comes to developing these new project clubs. If your volunteer is a community professional, do they have specific topics they specialize in or that they would like to teach? Or are they just kind of an open book and just are there to help and there for you to kind of guide in the right direction? Make sure your vision for the project club is heard, as well as the vision from your volunteers. What is your vision for the club? You got to kind of start there. How involved do you want to be as a 4-H agent? Does the volunteer need consistent advising, or do they tend to be a little more self-sufficient? In the past, experienced volunteers that we've encountered may need less supervision compared to inexperienced volunteers, but those experienced volunteers with stronger personalities may need a little more supervision. In the past, here in Calcasieu specifically, we've had some volunteers with our horse club projects that maybe their intentions got a little swayed. And it just took a little encouragement to kind of guide them back in the right direction. So make sure that these stay working documents and so that things can change and mold over time. All right, so once this team is assembled, your work isn't done. Develop that base of trust between the agents and the volunteers and the youth that are in the club, as well as your youth volunteers. Keep those open lines of communication Personally, I keep an open door policy on my office. If I'm there, feel free to stop by anytime. I don't have appointments or office hours or any of that. I'm free anytime. So make sure that your volunteers understand that they can communicate with you freely. Review those volunteer roles as needed when the visions for the club change. Are goals the same? If they're not the same, what caused them to change? Things like changing skill level of the members. Maybe the membership is younger than you expected it to be. Maybe resources have changed. Maybe you got a grant. Maybe a hurricane came through and destroyed your veterinary office where you were having your meetings. So things change. So just make sure you kind of roll with the punches and make sure, like I said, that these are working documents and that you can edit as you go. Tech support. Be familiar with the technology that the club is going to be using. You don't have to be an expert, but being familiar is going to assist so that you can assist them with any tech problems that they might have. And don't be afraid to ask for tech help. A lot of our teenagers are much more well versed in the world of technology than we are. One of the great things about social media is that you can make it work for you. So make sure that if you are using social media like Facebook, Instagram, GroupMe, Reminds, all of these things, make sure that you kind of dive into that a little bit and figure out how to make it work best for you. Here in Calcasieu, our junior leaders, each year a new junior leader officer gets assigned our Reminds, and they control our Remind app for us. If we need to send a message out, we just shoot a quick text to that junior leader and they can go ahead and send it out in the Reminds and make sure that everybody stays up to date. Our horse club leaders have the ability, full ability to post on the horse club Facebook page, with the agents also being admins, but we don't really, we monitor it, but we don't really, we kind of give them a little free grace there. Facebook is typically, again, followed by parents. Just keep that in mind as kind of your older age group. Instagram, Snapchat are those that are popular with the youth. Make sure your volunteers are familiar as well with community resources that are available to them, such as grants and donations, or in-kind resources such as facility use and guest speakers, field trips, all of the things that are available to us as agents that volunteers may not be as familiar with as a resource. There's all kind of links up here for you. The virtual guide, the same that Megan just discussed, is here for you again if you need it. Download it in a PDF copy there from that link. And then the link to the volunteer development newsletter for volunteers is there as well. And I believe that is it, and I will turn it over to Victoria.
Thanks, Carrie. Miss Lynette, I'll have you click through if you don't mind for me.
Any questions for Carrie before Victoria takes over? I think what Carrie presented, one thing to summarize it is just to have that communication between volunteers and agents so that everybody has clear expectations and understanding, because it's a very valued partnership. And I think Victoria is going to cover some of that when she talks about management tips. So Victoria, all yours.
Whoops, something just fell off my desk. All right, y'all. I would say this team has been working very well together. A lot of the stuff that I will talk about, Reed has mentioned, Megan has mentioned, Carrie has mentioned, Miss Lynette has chimed in. So really had a fun time working with this committee. So glad to be a part of it. So we're going to talk about project clubs within the management side of that. When I first heard communities of practice, my brain went, what? But that is what we use as agents as lesson study. Lesson study, this is my third year within it. It is a program that helps, it takes several educators to collaboratively plan, teach, observe, and revise a series of connected lessons. So this year, some of our topics that agents are going through are listed on our slide. Adulting life skills, so skills that we need in adulthood that might not be taught in your traditional classroom. Animal advocacy. So that ag side and advocating for that. Energy, those would be perfect for a science or STEM-based project club. Gardening, whether it be a school garden or a healthy living type nutrition project club. Personal development. This year, Lafayette is doing character building. Last year, we did one with our junior leaders for leadership development, talking about resumes and networking. What are those tips that we need to pass on? What is a technical skill? And then what is a transferable skill? Youth wetlands is another popular one. Each year, agents can select different topics for lesson studies, and each one usually has an age range that best fits. This year for character, it's elementary, but we're adapting it within our group to also meet that middle and high school. It's curriculum that's provided to the agents. We don't have to figure out what we're going to teach each lesson this year. It's provided for us. Some of the materials, lessons, we don't need anything. That's nice for Lafayette Parish, especially when we might see 50 clubs in 1 month in a traditional year. Trying to bring supplies to 5 different schools in one day just doesn't work for us. So we like ones that don't have as much material, but in a project club, you might have the room or the space to do that. And we always have a reflection component in our lesson study. So those are what the 2 peoples on the slide are. So having our members reflect back to the real world. What did we learn today? How can someone else benefit? Because it might not necessarily apply to us, but it helps us think about, how is this information going to work? Or how can I use it? So to recap, lesson studies takes, we study it. So we look over the lessons in our group of agents, and then we plan out how are we going to implement this in our selected group of youth that we're going to present it to. We teach it, and then we reflect what worked, what didn't. And it really incorporates that youth-adult partnership because it's not us just telling. The youth really have that ability to say, I didn't really understand this, or this didn't connect. And it allows for, in the sharing of agents and volunteers, to be like, okay, so this worked really well. This wasn't a hit. Was it something that was common among age ranges, or was it just specific to that group? So those are some cool things within lesson study. Miss Lynette, I'll have you go to the next one. Okay, so resources. I limited it to 3 resources because there are infinite sources that could be very helpful, but I wanted to keep it simple for us today. Your local 4-H office. I know you might not be able to get there right now to say to go in public without talking to your agent like we normally could, just walk in and visit some days. But we can be a resource as your parish agent office because we have lots of curriculum, record book, project books that are already in our office. LSU Ag Center is another great website that it's within your local 4-H. If we go next to the 4-H website, that is going to be the picture that is below me sitting on a stack of books. They have over 450 titles for curriculum. They have helper guides, so you might be leading this project, but you see it from the youth perspective, but you want some tips of how do I help teach this? How do I help mentor these students? They offer those. They offer some curriculum bundles by topic. Some of them I listed, I know it's hard to see, but there's one on beef. So it lists the 3 beef books and the beef helper guide. There's some on hiking trails, some on cat projects. One that I really like, especially this year. It's called Beyond the Needle, because like Reed talked about, we want to make sure our supplies aren't going to be reused and reused. So in my fashion workshop, it's usually sewing. I don't necessarily have enough machines to keep sanitized or enough room to put us all out within the needed space with electrical plugs for 6 feet. This book from the 4-H Mall website gives me ways to talk about clothing and textile science that's not sewing, whether it be applique or color dyeing or all different textures and parts of how to build an outfit is what we're going to do for our sewing and fashion this year instead of how to sew an actual item. Another series that I really like is the Discover 4-H Club series. It's over 75 different topics, and that is what is on top of the 4-H Clover on your slide. It is a free resource that your agents can get. I will say in one of our regional trainings, Miss Lynette had pulled some of them and we went through them. You might just need to look and see what age you're trying to reach and what's the best method of using that information. So they might need to be adapted a little bit more than just taking your project book from the 4-H Mall website. But it is a nice resource, and they have tons of different topics from edible science to crocheting. And it also talks about how to survive the zombie apocalypse and all those life. And it just seemed to be interesting topics that the kids were interested in. So one thing I'm going to point out on that note is when we're thinking about the topic, one way to figure out how to narrow down your project club, work with your agent, of course, if you're a volunteer, but also agents, work with your advisory members. They can help direct you. That's how we pick our focus for the year every year in Lafayette for the main topic, but it also helps guide our other efforts. I think that's it for that slide, Miss Lynette. Okay, so Carrie just touched upon this. Technology tools for virtual meetings. Guys, stay within Microsoft Teams if you're working with volunteers and agents. Like Miss Lynette said, if you're in the school system and you have access to another thing, just work with your agent. Make sure we're all covered by IT and what they can help with for virtual meetings. Communication. I stuck with Remind and GroupMe because that's what I know. Remind, we use it for our large groups. For Lafayette, my junior leader club is in a Remind. Our 4-H U group is in a Remind. I like it because they can use a phone number or an email to send messages. So my kids who might not have their own cell phone number can still get it. They might take mom or dad's cell phone with them or use another member's when we go on a trip, but they can at least get those messages to their email. GroupMe, it's another app that allows, instead of the group text messages and all the fees for the messages, it's a free app that lets you send text messages. It also lets you do phone number or email. In Lafayette, that's what I use for my junior leader officers. That is what we use for our shooting sports coaches. It's also what we use for our camp volunteers when we go to camp. Keeps everything kind of in that one chain. Today I got invited to use WhatsApp. I'm not familiar with it, so I'm not going to recommend that to my volunteers right now because I don't know enough about it. And that's what Carrie was talking about, being familiar with what you promote. Reminder, keep the 2 deep leadership, keep all of those things in risk management that we all seem to talk about today. All right, Miss Lynette, I think that is it.
Okay, thanks, Victoria. Any questions for Victoria? I think we had a lot of key messages today that hopefully gave some insight. Project clubs have always been a valuable component of our program. And recently with the situation we're dealing with COVID and not being able to have large groups, as we transition back to having some on-site meetings, having these small group project clubs are definitely a way for us to build those club member interactions, as well as giving them project knowledge and skill sets. So just for a few minutes, I'd like for us to think about what we gathered today from this webinar, and what do we think we can use from this? What are some things that you picked up today that maybe inspired you, that you wanted to learn more about, that you think you could use within your program? So if you would at this time, you could either type those in the chat room, or you could open your mic and share. What are some things that you learned today that you think would be useful to you as a volunteer or an agent, or volunteer and agents working together? The importance of connecting with volunteers. Adriana, thanks. And Adriana has strong volunteer relationships. I know one that she talks about often is the one she has with her food and fitness project volunteer. Anyone else would like to share? Thanks, Margot. How to utilize volunteers in different areas.
One area. Oh,
Go ahead, Victoria.
one area I think that caught my attention was when Carrie was saying how we always usually think of our teen volunteers as camp counselors, but also remembering that they fall, even though I place them in other areas, like I get stuck in that trap sometimes. So really evaluating, like, okay, like how can they help serve our program in another area that they are extremely passionate about.
And remember, part of especially working with teens, or volunteer development in itself is just helping people to grow in themselves in leadership roles. And with our teen volunteer, giving those teens teaching roles and helping them to learn to plan and organize things is just another level of their 4-H experience that we want to offer to them. Yes, Ms. Dana, thank you. Giving teens a voice. As a project leader and sitting down with a project volunteer or a project agent and actually having that team share what they think will work is very important. Anyone else would like to share? Someone has a mic open. Adriana, did you want to share? Your mic's open.
No, I'm sorry.
Sorry. It took me a while to figure out who it was.
No, I was going to say something about food and fitness, how important it is to have those relationships, not only the adult volunteers, but the teens that come every year to help.
Yes. And several people have mentioned it, and Megan put it in the chat room, the use of teen volunteers and how they master technology before we do. Yes, we can learn a lot from our teens. And I think that's something we need to keep in mind, that we too continue to learn every day, and we need to be open to learning from our fellow agents, from our volunteers, whether they're adult or teens. Any other thoughts, key things that you picked up today? Maddox learned about Slido.com. Megan talked about all the different titles available, the curriculums available in the 4-H Mall. There's a lot of resources available to us. Sometimes they can be overwhelming. So hopefully things like this webinar and just visiting with others can help us to discover what works for others and their experiences with them. So I think sharing and networking is also very important as we think about establishing project clubs. Yes, those letters for volunteers and the leader guide will be available soon. As I think Carrie mentioned, that Megan and Dr. Lepley worked to revise those, and they are currently being made ADA accessible, and they should be available hopefully sooner rather than later. Anything else? Any questions? Okay, well, I would like to thank the committee that put this on and the presenters for sharing their knowledge with us. We will be sending out a recap email with all the resources available. Megan also recorded this session, so we will have it available for your reference. And we also will be sending out a brief evaluation if you would provide us feedback on the 2 sessions that we've offered in the Southwest region. What did you like about them? What can we improve on? And then what other sessions, whether it's virtual or on site, that you would like to see offered to volunteers in our region? Any closing comments, questions? Well, thank all of you so much for joining us. Y'all have a nice evening.